Hey everyone, how's it going? Forrest here. Thanks for checking out my complete analysis of all 389 Bach chorale harmonizations. We're going to be looking at Nun lob mein Ziel den Herren today, which roughly translates to Now praise my soul the Lord. Sorry, I had to pull that up from my notes. It wasn't the window that was in front of me that I'm reading off of. This is a chorale that has a lot of harmonic movement, and I'm still not 100% clear about how the best way to go about analyzing everything is, but I did find a way that made sense to me, and it's consistent, which is my number one rule when it comes to analysis, and I'm just going to go ahead and present it to you. So we're in the key of A major here. We start with an A major triad, we end with an A major triad, and that's pretty much a dead giveaway about how we can determine what key the entirety of the piece is in. We then go to an F sharp minor triad. That would be a 6 chord in the key of A major. Then we have a C sharp minor triad. That would be a 3 chord in the key of A major. Did I say C major earlier? I meant A major, sorry. D, A, D, F sharp. That is a 4 chord, a D major triad. Passing tone in the alto. Then we have an E7 chord with the D in the bass. 5-4-2, and that would go to an A major triad in first inversion, so a 1-6. We have some non-chord tones on beat 2, and then we have E, G sharp, E, B. It's a 5 chord in root position. Then we go to a 1 chord. Notice how C sharp is in the soprano. That makes this an imperfect authentic cadence. We then have again another A major triad, just the tenor is the only voice that leaps up, actually. Or sorry, the tenor is the only voice that, the lower voices are the only voices that move. Then we have E sharp, C sharp, G sharp, C sharp. That is a C sharp major triad instead of minor in first inversion. So that would be the dominant of F sharp minor, which is our 6. Then we have C sharp, B, E sharp, C sharp. We don't need to change the Roman numeral because it's still the same chord, just it changes from a first inversion triad to a root position 7 chord. So that would be the figure bass that we would use, or at least the one that makes sense to me. F sharp A, F sharp C. There's the 6 chord we're looking for, following the secondary dominant. Passing tone in the bass. Then we have another one of these E7 chords with the D in the bass. And it again goes to a 1-6 chord. So Bach just likes that progression, that movement from third inversion 5 to first inversion 1. Then we have a 2-6 chord here. That'd be a B minor in first inversion. That goes to a 5 chord, an E major triad, root position, to a 1 chord. And this is a perfect authentic cadence. So that's pretty much the easiest part of the chorale to analyze. Not a lot really going on. I'd say the most interesting thing going on is probably this measure right here, where he just really tonicizes F sharp minor heavily. But other than that, it's been pretty straightforward to analyze. But it starts to get hairy in this section. We have the same chord on the pickup of the next phrase, and it goes to a D major triad, which would be a 4 chord. Got some passing tones in the upper voices. That goes to a root position A major triad, so a 1 chord. And here we start to see some chromaticism, which is preparing us for the modulation to F sharp minor. I think the F sharp minor actually happens on this chord right here. We're going to instead call it 3, because we're moving to the parallel minor here. This is 7-6, G sharp, E sharp, B. That's an E sharp diminished triad. And then we go to F sharp, A. That is a 1 chord in root position. E sharp, G sharp, G sharp, C sharp. That's a 5 chord in first inversion. Then we have a 1 chord, or F sharp minor, again, which goes to B, D, G sharp. That's a 2 chord in first inversion, a diminished, because remember we're in minor. And then we go to C sharp, C sharp, E sharp, G sharp. It's a 5 chord in root position, to our 1 chord. So we have another perfect authentic cadence in F sharp. This time, though, it's in F sharp, not in A major. If we look at the next cadence, we have a perfect authentic cadence in the key of E major. So that being said, we're going to say that this F sharp is actually now 2 of E. Bach is doing these movements where the chord that he's modulating with is turning into a chord that's adjacent numerically in the next key, and that's going to be the guide for my analysis moving forward. You'll see how it turns out. But that being said, he uses a lot of these common chords to modulate, which is really nice. We have D sharp, A, F sharp, B. That is a 5-7 chord in first inversion, so that would be a 5-6-5. And now we're on to the next system. We would expect a 5 chord to go to 1, which it does, because remember we're in E major now. E, G sharp, E, B. It's a 1 chord. Some contrary motion in the tenor and the soprano. Then we have D, B, E, G sharp. Another 5-4-2 chord, but remember, we're in E major now, so this would be 5-4-2, a 4. Then we have C sharp, E, A. That would just be a 4 chord. So we're seeing the same progression here, but we're thinking in terms of E major. So instead of 5-4-2 to 1, like here, we have 5-4-2, a 4 to 4-6. Remember, this is in first inversion. And then here we have the F sharp happening. How does that change? I think this is just, F sharp, C, E, A. That would be a 2-6 chord. This is an A, not an F sharp. Sorry, I'm confusing my clefs. It happens from time to time when I'm thinking. Then we have a 5 chord here, and we get a perfect authentic cadence in the key of E major. C sharp, G sharp, C sharp, E. That's a C sharp minor triad. If we look at our next cadence, we have a cadence in D, and you hear a pattern that you hear in a lot of the Bach chorales. Da 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 da. That sound, you hear that pattern a lot in Bach chorales, at least in the cantatas that I've listened to. I hear that a lot in the chorales that he has, so I'm going to be on the lookout for that sort of sound, where he cadences on like the 5 of the chord, but I wasn't sure if he was cadencing on D and he had modulated to A major, so that we're modulating on the 4. That's what D would be if we were in the key of A major. But it sounds like an imperfect authentic cadence to me. It still sounds like an authentic cadence in the key of D major, but where does he modulate? We have G sharps in here, but we only get our first G natural right before the cadence. As far as staying consistent is concerned, I think right here is sort of where the modulation begins to happen. So we have F sharp, A, C, A. That's an F sharp minor triad, and 6 would go to 2. But this is where I'm going to say the modulation happens to D major, because that F sharp chord is now 3, again with sort of this adjacent numerical chord. And really, all that you need to know is that the modulation is happening. Whether or not you choose to mark it here, or there, or really anywhere before the cadence, you could say the modulation happens in this bar. So long as you understand that there's a modulation happening, I think that that's what matters. But I'm going to stay consistent and mark it there. F sharp, D, F sharp, A. That is a 1 chord in first inversion, if we're thinking in terms of D. Then we have a G sharp, B, E, B. That would be 5-6 of 5. An E major triad is 5 of 5 in the key of D major. Then we have F sharp, B, B. I think these are just passing tones. And then we have E, E, G sharp, B. Again, this would just be turning it into a 5-3 chord, kind of like how we have right here, where we have a 5-6 of something, turning into a 5-3 of something else. And it goes to A, E, A, C sharp. That's just a 5 chord in the key of D major. Then we have the 7 going on right here. Then we have a imperfect authentic cadence in D. Now, whether or not you think that the modulation happened later than I marked or earlier than I marked, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter, but it's something that I'm definitely thinking about. I'm not sure if there's a most elegant way to analyze it, but I think the modulation happens on the earlier side of the spectrum. just to justify sort of like everything that's happening. Okay, next we have a 5 chord, C, E, A, that's a 5 chord in first inversion more specifically. And then we have B, F sharp, B, D. That is a 6 chord, but if we look at the next cadence, we have B major. So I think we're actually kind of similar to a chorale we looked at before. We have a modulation to a minor key, because we have a lot of G naturals going on in A sharps. We even have this augmented second going on right here, which is a really neat sound. And we're just gonna, I guess, just keep analyzing. We have an octave leap, passing tone, G, B, B, D. That would be a 6 chord in the key of B minor. Remember, B minor is the parallel minor of D major, kind of like how we go from A to F sharp. Going from D to B is also kind of like a symmetrical thing that Bach is doing here, so further justifying this modulation. And then we go to E, E, G, C sharp. That's a 2 chord in first inversion in the key of B minor. Then we have G, D, and then B again. That was just another 6 chord. Kind of fakes us out in anticipation for a cadence. Remember, 6 and 2 are not actually, hold on, I'm totally messing things up. 2 and 6 are not a third apart. I was about to talk about how chords that are a third apart share 2 notes in common, but no, that's not the case. He prepares us with the 2 chord for like a larger 5, but he goes 2, 6, then 5, then 1, because we get F sharp, A, E, C sharp. That's even more specifically, it's a 5/7 chord, and then we get a Picardy third here, a perfect authentic cadence in the key of B, but we get B major instead of B minor. So the next thing that we have going on here is a modulation in preparation for D major again. So if we go here, we know that we have an imperfect authentic cadence in the key of D major. So if I go ahead and analyze that one ahead of time, we'll be prepared for it. Here we have an E major triad. See, this is what makes it kind of tricky, because if we say that this B, if we're going back to D major, and we say that that B is 6, and we say that this is 5 of 5, right? Because E, G sharp, E, B, and then we go A, E, C sharp, we would expect that to go to 5. Passing tone. F sharp, A, F sharp, C, we now go to 3 instead of going to 1 as we would expect it to. Sometimes we see 5 go to 3. We've seen that in some of the other chorales we've looked at. Then we have B, F sharp, D. 3 does want to go to 6, so that makes sense. Passing tone in the lower voice. And then here we have the G's, G, B, G, D. That's a 4 chord in the key of D major. And then here we have something really interesting. We have like a C sharp pedal, and really what this C sharp is implying is just dominance, like it's the leading tone, and then we have things going on in the middle. Like if we look at the inner voices, we have B and G, A and F sharp, G and E. They're just going down with the trajectory of a fourth. So G to D and B to F sharp. So really what's going on here is it's just kind of like a dominant. We have C sharp and E. That's like, I would say that that's like a 7 chord. A 7 chord or a 5 chord. Honestly, what matters the most here is that you acknowledge the fact that there's some type of dominance going on. And then we have, like I said, our 1 chord right here. And then we have A, E, C sharp. That's our 5 chord. And we're preparing for a cadence in E major. So what I think we're going to call this is 4 in the key of E major. Sorry, my handwriting's going to have to get a little smaller here. So because we get a D sharp in the immediate next measure. So D sharp, F sharp, F sharp, B. That is a 5 chord, and we have been seeing throughout, I haven't been commenting it as much, but Bach's doublings, right? We've been seeing a lot of first inversion triads where the 5th is doubled, a lot of root position triads where the 3rd is doubled, definitely messing with my expectations for how he was going to spell the chords. We have a passing tone in the soprano, then we have E, B, E, G sharp, 5 going to 1, A, C sharp, E, A, that's a 4 chord, B, D, F sharp. We have some suspensions going on here. This is basically just a 5 chord. We have some passing tones. We could even call that 7 right there because of the passing tones that are going on. And then we get a perfect, authentic cadence in the key of E major. So some point near here, we're going to get a modulation back to A because this cadence that we're coming up to next, it looks like a cadence in the key of E major, but when I listen to this chorale, it sounds like a half cadence. I don't know if it's just me, but it sounds like a half cadence. We see D naturals happening in the same measure as D sharps, but this really feels like he's rising up to E, and when he gets to this E sharp, he goes to F sharp, and he's really just, the trajectory is going up to A. It sounds like this is a half cadence, so it's a really interesting quasi feeling like E being the tonic, then arriving at a cadence where it feels like a half cadence. This B right here, in comparison to all the E cadences he's had earlier where he's cadenced on the tonic, it just feels different. But up until then, we're still in the key of E major. This is a C sharp minor triad, so that's a 6 chord. And then we would expect 6 in most cases to go to 2 or 5. It does, it goes to an F sharp minor chord. We have a passing tone, and because we still have these D sharps, I'm still thinking we are in the key of E major. 2, and then we have E, B, E, G sharp. That just goes back to a 1 chord. It's interesting, 2 to 1, sort of like a parallel harmony. And then we have B, B, D sharp, F sharp. We could even call that 7 right there because this is a 5 chord. And then we have C sharp, G sharp, E. That's a 6 chord. And then we have the D right here. We have D, D, F sharp, and B. So that would be a B minor triad, so that would be going to 2 in the key of A major. And we're going to say that that's where the modulation is happening, right here. We're going to say that this 2 chord in the key of, oh, sorry, I did it in reverse. What I meant to say was this was, oops, sorry, I just lost my paper that I'm looking at. It's kind of hard to look down, so I'm looking at a blank version of the chorale on a little stand that I have to the right of me. You can't see the apparatus, but there's a lot of equipment in and around where I'm speaking, so it's kind of hard to look down at the chorale. So we're going to be modulating, I said D, I meant A. Wow, what's going on with me today? A. So if this was an A, that would be 2, but in the key of E, a B minor triad actually wouldn't exist. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to walk that back, and I'm going to say that it modulates on the previous beat. Here we have C sharp, G, E sharp in the key of A. That's a 3 chord. And then we'll have a bracket here because that's 6 in the key of E major. And then this B minor triad is 2, 6. And then A right here and C. These are just, I think, preparing for the next beat because we have D sharp, A, C, A. That is 7 of 5. So even though we've modulated back, we're still tonicizing. We have E, G, E, B. There's our 5 chord, or half cadence, a very interesting half cadence. Yeah, because we have that D going to D sharp. So I think we definitely are in the key of A major, because this really does feel like a half cadence to me. And if I'm hearing it wrong, then I'm hearing it wrong. But it still sounds like a half cadence to me, so that's what's guiding my analysis right now. Then we have 5 of 6. That is a C sharp major triad, so yeah, that would be 5 of 6, just like how we've had earlier. And it's more specifically 5, 6 of 6. It goes to 6. And then we have G sharp, E, B, D. That's a 5 chord, 5, 7 more specifically in first inversion, so it'd be a 5, 6, 5. E, C sharp. That's a 1 chord in root position. E, G sharp, B. It's a 5 chord. Passing tone, we could even call that a 7th. F sharp, C, A. So that we have a 6. We have some passing tones going on here. D, A. Sorry, D, F sharp, A. Like I said, I'm a serial treble clef reader when I'm calling the bass. It's like I'm right with here, and then when I go to ledger lines, my brain enters treble clef mode. So that'd be a 4 chord, root position. Then we have E, A, C sharp. That's a 1 chord in second inversion. E, D, G sharp, B. It's a 5/7 chord. And sometimes we do this little bracket notation underneath it to signify that 1, 6, 4, and 5 go together. A, C sharp, E, A. So 1. That's a perfect authentic cadence. Wow, sorry. This chorale was very difficult to get through. I'd say that as far as difficulty is concerned, it was the most challenging to analyze thus far. Not so much because the chords were difficult. You know, honestly, as far as counterpoint is concerned, he did a lot of metric harmonizations. Like, there was pretty much always a chord expected on beat 1 and beat 3, and sometimes when he subdivided the measure into 3 beats, or like 3 quarter notes, it was easier to analyze because each beat has its own chord, and a lot of the times he kept this 1, 2, 3 harmonic rhythm to it. That's the word I was looking for, the harmonic rhythm. It was 2 beats and then 1 beat, 2 beats and then 1 beat, 2 beats and then 1 beat, almost like a swung harmony. But it wasn't uncommon for us to get harmonies on all 3 beats as well. So it wasn't difficult to identify the harmonies. It was just, when do the certain modulations happen, and in the future, can we be clearer about exactly when the modulations happen? You know, in contrapuntal music, it can be difficult to pinpoint the exact moment, but I think I was fairly consistent with where I marked them, and there was at least logic to it. But you know, it's kind of weird. Like, you know, I say that we modulate to D major here, and it's not too long before we get a secondary dominant that precedes it, which kind of is like, why did we even bother modulating in the first place? But other than that, some of the modulations were definitely clearer. The D major ones still kind of elude me, and definitely what's going on in the last measure can be kind of hairy as well. But all in all, very beautiful chorale. My favorite chorale to have looked at thus far, and I'm looking forward to more chromatically dense chorales like this in the future. These are the ones that I've been really looking forward to analyzing just based on my own personal interest. So thank you so much for checking out the channel again. My name is Forrest, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care, and Happy New Year.